Buenos dias, wake up, wake up. You already know Omni Cosmic in the house. Today is thankful. Transcendent Tuesday. Hope everybody had a great, wonderful, creative manifestation Monday. Okay. Today's Transcendent Tuesday. I'm tired, you can tell. Can't stop, won't stop. All right, Transcendence Tuesday. Let's start it off with an affirmation. Let's get it. Buenos dias, buenos dias. Wake up, wake up. You already know Omni Cosmic in the house. I'm super tired. I'll tell you why. I don't have to, but I will. So, I wake up in the middle of the night almost every night. Usually it's probably 3, maybe 4 o'clock. Yesterday, I barely got some sleep. Just a lot of thoughts going through my head. Nothing serious, but actually, it was kind of challenging, but I'm very tired today. Thank you. But I'm here. Probably gonna fall asleep in the next 15 minutes. Buenos dias, buenos dias. Wake up, wake up. I'm talking to myself. Get your cafecito or your tecito, whatever. My name is Omni Cosmic. I'm here to talk about, read the Bible first and foremost. We're on Samuel chapter 18, book 1, Saul, jealousy of David. Let me read today's Transformation Tuesday affirmation, Transcendence Tuesday. This is the perfect day to shift your perspective and lean into the growth you've been working toward. Here's a powerful affirmation. I am not the same person I was yesterday. I welcome the shifts happening within me. Release the habits that no longer serve my future and step boldly into the next level of my potential. Today I choose growth over comfort. Buenos dias, buenos dias. Today's often when the Monday adrenaline wears off, which is true. I feel it, right? Monday is heavy. It's mentally busy. Then you manifest that busyness from your weekend until your beginning, right? So you resurrect being worried, being stressed. Most likely your body's in a lot of pain, but you're getting up anyway, right? Because you have to. So if you're able to incorporate stretching into your meditation, it helps a lot, especially for your lower back. If you're an older person with overweight issues that have like pinch your lower back, stretching in the mornings really well. I got some stretches I can show you if you like. On Monday I will. They work. Basically circulation for the lymphatic system, because the lymphatic system does not circulate on its own, so you have to do that so it can circulate, which helps you a lot. Especially when I had cancer, I used to move around a lot, even though I couldn't. I was in a lot of pain. There would be days when they made me move, like they made me walk. They made me, and I couldn't. Like I was in so much pain. I was walking with 2 walking sticks, like 2 canes, every day, at least for about a month and a half, because I couldn't walk. I was in so much pain I couldn't even walk, but I was going to work. I went to work every day. I worked from the hospital, but in the latter stages of the treatments and hospital visits, I would, at that time we were working in the office, so I would drive to the office, hurt in pain, and work like a half a day, or I end up falling asleep underneath my desk for lunch in my unit, like in my department. We had like partitions. We didn't have our own offices. We had an area, like a call center, where you can see everyone. and everyone can hear everyone. It's very noisy. A lot of people conversing on the phones. It seemed like a hectic environment, but it's really not, just people on the phone, navigating through issues. I would fall asleep on the floor underneath my computer desk in my little office, in my little cubicle. That's what they call it. That's a cubicle. Somebody would wake me up and send me to a room that we had for I think they changed it into like a maternity room where, if there were women who were pregnant, they would have their time in there. If they had, I guess, to feel like a breastfeeding bottle and think, they needed a nap. But I was using that room way before they were. But then when, we became more diverse as a company, they created the room for, which was my room, my suite in downtown. But Mondays are full of adrenaline. Transformation isn't just about adding new things, it's about letting go of old versions of yourself. By choosing growth over comfort, you give yourself permission to do the hard things that lead to big results. I always like to talk about micro shifts. So micro could be a micro shift of a conditioned way of handling a particular situation on a regular basis, right? Say it's the same thing. Could be minute. This is why it's micro, because you probably don't even notice. You're unconscious of this happening on a daily basis. But usually something like this nature is detrimental, or it doesn't allow you to grow, right? So if you find something that challenges you, something small, it doesn't have to be something big, and you accomplish it. Like, for instance, I'll give you a for instance, something that at your job, if you work for someone, or you work for yourself, and you build yourself a little micro challenge daily. And there's a lot of people who do that, because if you don't, then you become stagnant in terms of your transcendence, and it'll be a lot more difficult without having those, I believe, without having those micro changes where you can refer back to and say, okay, I did this, and this is why. And this is my end result. This is what I'm looking for. So, like, a challenge would be, instead of saying something like, I have to do this, man, I got to do this today. Man, I have to do this. I got to go. It's put yourself in a position where you have to stress out something that needs to be, or you're stressing something that stresses you, let's say every single day. I got to do this. I got to do this. Even though you know it's routine. It's just something you don't like to do, something that you've conditioned yourself not to like. Why? So you got to figure out, why do you not like doing this? You probably know why. How can you change your mind? Hopefully you'll find, something that can spark that interest to challenge yourself with regard to that micro challenge. And so instead of saying, now do this, get to see how you can handle the situation with your new frame of mind. If it works for you, if it don't, let it go, and then go back to what it was that was normal for you. But if it's helpful, if it's not, then you got to get rid of it. So let's do some big deep and identify one small habit. Many micro habits. So it talks about, or it says, here's an example, mindless scrolling. So once you become mindful of that, and it's not something that's helpful, it's not helpful. Believe me, I was just talking about yesterday. It is something that can depress you. Scrolling, it is no joke. And they even have a name. They call it death scrolling now. Look, listen to that. So that's a clinical diagnosis already. So change that. Change that scrolling habit. How you choose to do it, what type of procedures or processes you want to implement, and how you do that, that's great. If you want to include someone else to help you do that, that's great as well. And actually, last night was probably part of me not utilizing all, the electrical devices that I have for entertainment. I just didn't. I refused, and that was a battle. It was a battle. Not wanting to use a phone, and it's right there. The iPad's right there. Hearing the beeps. Those little small things for me are gain control for myself. Because what do you do when you hear a beep? You look. Where did the beep come from? Where's the beep? Beep, 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 beep. You control. I can take a clicker, just like you teach a dog or an animal with a clicker. I used to want to be a dog trainer. Don't know if you know that. But yes, and I did take some courses, and I learned a lot about teaching, just teaching. And I used to be a teacher. But the clicker, diabolical tool, gets you to do anything. Even if you don't know it, then I'm conditioning you. For instance, there are a set of alarm clicks in my neighborhood that when you pass by certain people's houses, you can hear it. Click, click, you can hear it. It activates some kind of motion sensor or whatever in people's houses. If you were to pass by there on a regular basis at a certain time, a certain day, or at a certain time, every day, you're going to hear that click. Your subconscious is going to become so conditioned to that click that you're going to go out for a walk whether you want to or not, because it's sort of like a reward system. I think that's what they call it in the educational book that I have. B.F. Skinner, I think, is the author of that book, the educational system. And you still have that. So with your phone and the light frequency and the sound frequency is controlling everything you do. You're basically a remote robot. And it's going to go a lot deeper than that. Transhumanism is real. It's happening. You can see it. Don't know if you saw the guy the other day with the chip in his head. Did you see that? He got a chip in his head. I don't watch news. But I do see, the internet, watch people, not all the time, but see stuff like that, right? Science and religion and politics, geopolitics, things of that nature. And you look up these things and you see what's happening in the programming on television. There's a repetition of the news, of the same clip over and over. And they do it throughout the whole day for any subject that they want to, say, program you to believe. Every channel will do it. I've seen it. That's one of the main reasons I don't watch the news. How can you get true source of information when the information is owned by like 4 families or 1 family? I don't know. And they narrate the information to you. This is not truth. This is false information of, inflated disinformation is facts. And why do people do that? Why do people disinform? The same reason that they indoctrinate you, to keep you in a perpetual lie. Why? You always got to ask why, because if you don't, you're never going to find out. And sometimes you never get the answer to why. Because if you're asking why, it should be evident why, right? It shouldn't be something that, why is this going on? Read the Bible, you know why it's going on. It's being perpetuated on purpose. Anyway, but read the Bible. Read the New Testament to your children. It'll teach them some things. One I love to talk about is Proverbs. My father didn't teach me to tie a tie. I had to learn online. Did I learn online? No, I don't think I did. No, I learned how to tie a tie in the library. I went to we had computers. Yeah, did we have the internet? Yeah, we had AOL. Did we? I think it was like a PDF or something that showed me how to tie a tie. I learned how to tie a knot in a tie right before an interview on my own. And before I can get a job with the way I knew how to tie someone, I was in a bathroom, a public bathroom one day, tying my tie. And the man looked at me and said, "That's not how you do that." And he helped me do it, the right way. I think it's called a Windsor knot. I'm not sure. But that's how I learned how to tie a tie. First by myself, and then someone helped me perfect it in the public bathroom. True. Right before an interview. I was kind of in a rush because I was late, and I don't like being late. That's something I do not like. Wasn't late. I wasn't late. I felt like I was late. I think I was like 10 minutes early. Hello there. Hi. Dios te bendiga. God bless. Thorfinn-211. Wake up, wake up. Good day to you. Thank you for saying hello. I appreciate it very much. Today's Transcendent Tuesday, so let's go from there to, that was the affirmation for today. Repetition, I do this repetitively, first of all, for me, and I share it with you because I need this. I need to align, and this is being done, something I incorporate, which is this. To me, I would be doing it here by myself without talking to you about it, but now that I can share it through this platform, then yay, you get a piece of me. You want a piece of me? All right, let's do hey. What's this? Oh, this is all right, here's a quote for the day. So we do a quote, which is great. I love Alan Watts. Not literally because I don't know him. And Carl Jung. I think I began reading them when I was like 24. Maybe a little younger. So here is a great one for today. This is from a quote from Alan Watts. The only way to make sense out of change is to plunge into it, move with it, and join the dance. I read that every Tuesday. Repetition will subconsciously put into your mind a symbol. If you repeat it, is that the conditioning of the repetition that you will become a master of, and you will begin to do these things subconsciously. You are reprogramming yourself. Ain't nothing better than have your own program system, right? Because you know it, you can change it, you can update it, you can delete it, you can buy something, you can add on, you can take off. You know what's there in that operating system, and you're the master of that. I, self, Lord, and Master. Okay, so here is Transcendent Tuesday poem. My favorite part. The Midweek Metamorphosis is the title. The week is young, the air is new. A Tuesday lens to change your view. The heavy weight of Monday's climb now softens into rhythm and rhyme. Growth is rarely a thunderous sound, but a quiet seed beneath the ground. It's more like a limerick, right? I think. Breaking its shell to reach the light, trusting the sun after the night. Don't fear the shedding of the old, the stories told or plans on hold. Hi, Anakana Q, K9F, hola, buenos dias, wake up, Omni Cosmic in the house. I don't know how to say that. I already tried it. I'm not doing that. Really, but good request though. Can you say your name? For every leaf that falls away makes room for what you'll bloom today. Stand in the shift. Embrace the grace. Run your own race at your own pace. Transformation is a choice you make in every breath and step you take. Bingo. Now, it's supposed to be transcendence. I said transformation because they mean two totally different things. So if you can look up transformation and transcendence, and you'll see the difference. The Bible. But right now, I was just reading stuff that I wrote, which is a poem. I just read it. Transformation, affirmation, transcendence, affirmation, and a motivational stuff, and the Bible. So I'll show you if you want to look. It's the NIV version, and for those theologians, I know it's garbage. I know there's things in there that have been changed, and of course they're all like that. There's like 30,000 versions of this thing, and I use this app right there. And today's blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. That's Matthew 5, verse 10. So that's the app that I use. It's called YouVersion. So yeah, I used to too. I had a huge Bible. I had like the Old Testament. I had the Old Testament. It was huge. So from back, so this is the back cover. This is the top cover. That's how thick it was. And it was probably like that big. It's a pretty big Bible. Couldn't carry it around, but I tried. It belonged to my father. I don't know what happened to it. It had illustrations. The letters were written in English letters, right? I had one of those. Yep. When I was a kid, terrified of reading it because every time I read it, it was about killing somebody. It was about taking somebody's tongue, killing somebody's family, destroying the whole entire nation. So I grew up reading this Old Testament. Very scary stuff. So I began to understand the reasoning behind the teachings of the Pentecostals, which is what my father had brought me into when I was younger, as a kid. Before then, I was going to Catholic church on Sundays with my grandmother on occasion. But when I stayed with her, which I was dumped off at her house every weekend, just about like a bag of trash or something. And I would have to go in, and go through these rituals, and it didn't really make sense to me. I was like, this doesn't make any sense. So I stopped going. I started going to other churches. I was forced to go to Pentecostal, so I learned a lot of this stuff when I was younger, and I didn't really appreciate much of it because I didn't understand it, and nobody was trying to explain anything. All they were trying to do was control, how I thought, how I looked at the world, which is really dangerous. So it's indoctrination. Anyway, here we go. There it is. And like I said, this is YouVersion. I'm using the NIV at the top. You can see it if you press this button right here, or icon, whatever. You can see all the versions. God was born through a version. The word. Okay. He could have. I don't know who did, but it's great. So anyway, this guy's gonna read it. If we have, or I have, any comments or anything that I need to say about something that I hear, then I will. But so I'll open it up. Here's your YouVersion. That always pops up. Okay. That's just the verse of the day. It usually comes up. I'll just go back here. The Bible. There it is. I'm going to press play, which is right there, and he's going to start reading. You ready? Here we go. Samuel 18. Saul's growing. Oh, this is. See, so this one's title, it says Saul's growing fear of David. And then here it says Saul's jealousy of David. Something that I noticed yesterday is I've been studying the Gnostics, and the Gnosticism, which is the first form of religion, of Christian religion, supposedly from, what their studies and things of that nature. But what they were saying is, how did they find these scriptures, right? There's three versions of why this man ended up in this place finding these scriptures. One of them is that he went there with someone to go kill someone who killed his father. The second one was he went there to go pull up some clay or for selling something. He wasn't really excavating. His name was Muhammad Ali something, Saad something. But there's three different reasons why this individual ended up in this area and finding these scriptures. And there's probably even more. So that's like the game telephone. When you have I don't know if you've ever played this, but you have a circle of people, right? Let me see if I can draw this out. Okay. Hold on. Okay, ready? So if this only you watch is because you're only watching with your own eyes. You can't watch with someone else's. So here's a circle. Right? You start the rumor here, or the information here. You got a bunch of folks all around. So this person, I'm going to put me. All right? I say something to this kid or this person. I say, hey, did you know that Michael Jordan used to play for the Boston Red Sox? That's the first message I give this person. I say, hey, do you know that Michael Jordan used to play for the Boston Red Sox? So this person says that to the second person. The statement's pretty fresh. So we kind of remember. By the time it gets here, it's something totally different. Totally different. By the time it gets to the end, it has nothing to do with Michael Jordan, nothing to do with the Boston Red Sox, nothing to do with that he plays with them at all. So this is how I look at this information, and you should too, because this is hearsay. And the authors of these are unknown mostly. It tells you at the beginning, author unknown. So here we go. We're gonna play. I'm running late today. So we might just read one chapter and see if we can get some understanding just from that one. But here we go. As above, so below, so within, so without. Father God, Father Mother, please give us understanding on this scripture so that we may build knowledge, transcend into wisdom. In your name. Amen. You say amen. Here we go.
1 Samuel, chapter 18. After David had finished talking with Saul, Jonathan became one in spirit with David, and he loved him as himself. From that day, Saul kept David with him and did not let him return home to his family. And Jonathan made a covenant with David because he loved him as himself. Jonathan took off the robe he was wearing and gave it to David, along with his tunic and even his sword, his bow, and his belt. Whatever mission Saul sent him on, David was so successful that Saul gave him a high rank in the army. This pleased all the troops and Saul's officers as well. When the men were returning home after David,
and I find that kind of suspicious, not suspicious in a negative way, or I'm gonna find out, is that the author knows all kind of details about everything, all conversations, but when it comes to specific things of that nature, when he went out and did something, but what exactly did he do? Okay, there it is. David was so successful that Saul, whatever mission Saul sent him on, why don't they explain what mission it was? I think they do. Successful Saul gave him a high rank, and when the men were returning home after David had killed the Philistines. So I suppose for killing Philistines, he's given him this. He's saying he was successful.
He'd killed the Philistine. The women came out from all the towns of Israel to meet King Saul, with singing and dancing, with joyful songs, with tambourines and lyres. As they danced, they sang, "Saul has slain his thousands, and David his tens of thousands." Saul was very angry. This refrain displeased him greatly. They have credited David with tens of thousands, but me with only thousands. What
Jealousy.
more can he get but the kingdom?
So that goes to the title. There you go. There's the jealousy portion of it. It says he, but is he not practicing something that his God has said to him? I am a jealous God. I don't know if he knows that yet in this section, but he's practicing what he's being taught. But that's a sin to practice what you're being taught. Well, because throughout the Old Testament, there's nothing but murder and destruction. But then when these folks individually decide to take it upon themselves to do so, it's a sin. Unless they're told to do it by the Lord. Then it's a sacrifice. Then it's a ritual. Then it's a must. Which is contradictory to someone who is following someone who claims to be benevolent and loving. Wouldn't you say? Wouldn't you have asked that in these days? Probably not, because it was so frightful, so medieval to see this individual or this thing destroying babies, pregnant women, grandmothers, grandfathers, towns, children, armies. Anything he can get his hands on, he was destroying if you didn't get along or accepted his indoctrination. Wake up, wake up. It's just a way of looking at it. I don't see anything in this Old Testament other than historical facts to guide you in any way in life. They're giving you a narrative of somebody else's history and you don't even know your own. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, because listen, if you were in charge, what would you do? Probably do things a lot more different. However, this God didn't know any different, because if he did, he would practice it. Or if he did, he didn't want to, because on occasion he showed that he could have done something other than what he did. And even his followers would say, wow, can you do this? Nah, messed that up. There was no breaks. Like this dude had no remorse for getting rid of anyone, including children. Now you tell me, religion aside, personal ideas and personal, would you do these things? Being a lord of a folk that desperately need some guidance, would you do these things? Would you treat them as such? Would you? Would you kill women and children, pregnant women, babies, grandfathers, grandparents en masse because they weren't listening to you, because they don't accept you? Do that. Mess around, do that today. You end up in Guantanamo Bay somewhere, wherever they call them joints. You cannot do that. Not as a human or a man. You have to be some kind of deity. Huh? Or demiurge. Don't know if you know what that is, but if you figure that one out, you're on your way. No, I'm joking. But demiurge is what this is. You can be seen as a demiurge as well. You were born in the dark, came to the light, decided in the dark that you were the only one that was there, bust out, and you was like, oh, that's not a lie. That's a lie. I'm not the only one here. Now I have to change my strategy. But what was that? You don't remember because your memory was erased. How do you erase memory? How do you erase memory in a computer? Where does it go? So if you can sort of make those two relative because they are the same, you're deleting something, where does it go? Deletion heaven? Or your memories, where does it go? Here we go.
And from that time on, Saul kept a close eye on David. The next day, an evil spirit from God came forcefully on Saul. He was prophesying in his house while David was playing the lyre, as he usually did. Saul had a spear in his hand, and he hurled it, saying to himself, "I'll pin David to the wall." But David eluded him twice. Saul was afraid of David, because the Lord was with David, but had departed from Saul. So he sent David away from him and gave him command over 1,000 men. And David led the troops in their campaigns. In everything he did, he had great success, because the Lord was with him. When Saul saw how successful he was afraid of him. But all Israel and Judah loved David, because he led them in their campaign. Saul said to David, "Here is my elder daughter, Merab. I will give her to you in marriage. Only serve me bravely and fight the battles of the Lord." For Saul said to himself, "I will not raise a hand against him. Let the Philistines do that." But David said to Saul, "Who am I, and what is my family or my clan in Israel, that I should become the king's son-in-law?" So when the time came for Merab, Saul's daughter, to be given to David, she was given in marriage to Adriel of Maholah. Now Saul's daughter, Michal, was in love with David, and when they told Saul about it, he was pleased. "I will give her to him," he thought, "so that she may be a snare to him, and so that the hand of the Philistines may be against him." So Saul said to David, "Now you have a second opportunity to become my son-in-law." Then Saul ordered his attendants, "Speak to David privately and say, 'Look, the king likes you, and his attendants all love you. Now become his son-in-law.'" They repeated these words to David, but David said, "Do you think it is a small matter to become the king's son-in-law? I'm only a poor man and little known." When Saul's servants told him what David had said, Saul replied, "Say to David, the king wants no other price for the bride than 100 Philistine foreskins to take revenge on his enemies." Saul's plan.
That's weird. Wants the foreskin of how many soldiers? I think I've heard this before. As payment for something that I don't know what that means. I really don't. What does that mean? Like, you're gonna go out. 100 Philistine foreskins to revenge on his enemies. What kind of request is that? So he had to know they had foreskin in order to ask for it. How do you know that?
It was for David to fall by the hands of the Philistines. When the attendants told David these things, he was pleased to become the king's son-in-law. So before the allotted time elapsed, David took his men with him and went out and killed 200 Philistines and brought back their foreskins. They counted out the
Indians were scalping and they were foreskinning. What? How does that make sense? What type of I'm pretty sure there's a meaning behind that, because there's a meaning behind all type of like crazy behavior. There's a reason for it. Oh, this is used because of this. Like, it's justified. And if they can't justify it, guess what they say? God said so. What? 200 foreskins. What did they do with them?
full number to the king, so that David might become the king's son-in-law. Then Saul gave him his daughter Michal in marriage. When Saul realized that the Lord was with David, and that his daughter Michal loved David, Saul became still more afraid of him, and he remained his enemy for the rest of his days. The Philistine commanders continued to go out to battle, and as often as they did, David met with more success than the rest of Saul's officers, and his name became well known. 1 Samuel.
This is chapter 19. Saul tries to kill David.
To 19.
Knew that was coming.
Saul told his son Jonathan and all the attendants to kill David. But Jonathan had taken a great liking to David and warned him, "My father Saul is looking for a chance to kill you. Be on your guard tomorrow morning. Go into hiding and stay there. I will go out and stand with my father in the field where you are. I'll speak to him about you and will tell you what I find out." Jonathan spoke well of David to Saul his father and said to him, "Let not the king do wrong to his servant David. He has not wronged you. And what he has done has benefited you greatly. He took his life in his hands when he killed the Philistine. The Lord won a great victory for all Israel, and you saw it and were glad. Why then would you do wrong to an innocent man like David by killing him for no reason?" Saul listened to Jonathan and took this oath, "As surely as the Lord lives, David will not be put to death." So Jonathan called David and told him the whole conversation. He brought him to Saul, and David was with Saul as before. Once more, war broke out, and David went out and fought the Philistines. He struck them with such force that they fled before him. But an evil spirit from the Lord came on Saul as he was sitting in his house.
That's kind of the fourth time they mentioned this evil spirit that came from the Lord. Gotta figure that one out. So this is in Samuel. Evil spirit from the Lord. I gotta look that up. I wonder how many folks that go to church, Bible study. I've gone to church all my life, right? I just finished going to church a couple of, I don't know, maybe last year I was going to church here on the weekends, on Sundays. And I know what they do. Just needed some kind of congregation, but I couldn't, probably couldn't keep shut. So I just had to leave so I don't go nuts. So I want to know, like, if they told these folks that there's an evil spirit from the Lord, what does that mean? What would it mean to someone, a Christian, that would say, "What, an evil spirit from the Lord?" So I guess we got to keep on reading to figure that one out. But I'll look it up. I'm pretty sure that somewhere in the notes it says what that means, really. Okay. So we're getting that on book 9, chapter 19, verse 9. Let me see if I can find it. That's 18. There's got to be a note in here about that statement. It's got to be. Got to be. It's in here somewhere. I know, I just can't see it right now. So anyway, let's just finish it. This is 19.
While David was playing the lyre, Saul tried to pin him to the wall with his spear, but David eluded him as Saul drove the spear into the wall. That night, David made good his escape. Saul sent men to David's house to watch it and to kill him in the morning. But Michal, David's wife, warned him, "If you don't run for your life tonight, tomorrow you'll be killed." So Michal let David down through a window, and he fled and escaped. Then Michal took an idol and laid it on the bed, covering it with a garment and putting some goat's hair at the head. When Saul sent the men to capture David, Michal said, "He is ill." Then Saul sent the men back to see David and told them, "Bring him up to me in his bed so that I may kill him." But when the men entered, there was the idol in the bed, and at the head was some goat's hair. Saul said to Michal, "Why did you deceive me like this and send my enemy away so that he escaped?" Michal told him, "He said to me, 'Let me get away. Why should I kill you?'" When David had fled and made his escape, he went to Samuel at Ramah and told him all that Saul had done to him. Then he and Samuel went to Naioth and stayed there. Word came to Saul, "David is in Naioth at Ramah." So he sent men to capture him. But when they saw a group of prophets prophesying, with Samuel standing there as their leader, the Spirit of God came on Saul's men, and they also prophesied. Saul was told about it, and he sent more men, and they prophesied too. Saul sent men a third time, and they also prophesied. Finally, he himself left for Ramah and went to the great cistern at Sichu. And he asked, "Where are Samuel and David?" "Over in Naioth at Ramah," they said. So Saul went to Naioth at Ramah, but the Spirit of God came even on him. And he walked along prophesying until he came to Naioth. He stripped off his garments, and he too prophesied in Samuel's presence. He lay naked all that day and all that night. That is why people say, "Is Saul also among the prophets?" 1 Samuel chapter 20.
Title is David and Jonathan.
Then David fled from Naioth at Ramah and went to Jonathan and asked, "What have I done? What is my crime? How have I wronged your father that he's trying to kill me?" "Never," Jonathan replied. "You're not going to die. Look, my father doesn't do anything great or small without letting me know. Why should he hide this from me? It isn't so." But David took an oath and said, "Your father knows very well that I have found favor in your eyes. And he has said to himself, 'Jonathan must not know this, or he will be grieved.' Yet as surely as the Lord lives and as you live, there is only a step between me and death." Jonathan said to David, "Whatever you want me to do, I'll do for you." So David said, "Look, tomorrow is the new moon feast, and I am supposed to dine with the king. But let me go and hide in the field until the evening of the day after tomorrow. If your father misses me at all, tell him, 'David earnestly asked my permission to hurry to Bethlehem, his hometown, because an annual sacrifice is being made there for his whole clan.' If he says, 'Very well,' then your servant is safe. But if he loses his temper, you can be sure that he is determined to harm me. As for you, show kindness to your servant, for you have brought him into a covenant with you before the Lord. If I am guilty, then kill me yourself. Why hand me over to your father?" "Never," Jonathan said. "If I had the least inkling that my father was determined to harm you, wouldn't I tell you?" David asked, "Who will tell me if your father answers you harshly?" "Come," Jonathan said, "let's go out into the field." So they went there together. Then Jonathan said to David, "I swear by the Lord, the God of Israel, that I will surely sound out my father by this time, the day after tomorrow. If he is favorably disposed towards you, will I not send you word and let you know? But if my father intends to harm you, may the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if I do not let you know and send you away in peace. May the Lord be with you, as he has been with my father. But show me unfailing kindness, like the Lord's kindness, as long as I live, so that I may not be killed. And do not ever cut off your kindness from my family, not even when the Lord has cut off every one of David's enemies from the face of the earth. So Jonathan made a covenant with the house of David, saying, May the Lord call David's enemies to account. And Jonathan made David reaffirm his oath out of love for him, because he loved him as he loved himself. Then Jonathan said to David, Tomorrow is the new moon feast. You will be missed, because your seat will be empty. The day after tomorrow, towards evening, go to the place where you hid when this trouble began, and wait by the stone easel. I will shoot 3 arrows to the side of it, as though I were shooting at a target. Then I will send a boy and say, Go find the arrows. If I say to him, Look, the arrows are on this side of you, bring them here, then come, because as surely as the Lord lives, you are safe, there is no danger. But if I say to the boy, Look, the arrows are beyond you, then you must go, because the Lord has sent you away. And about the matter you and I discussed, remember, the Lord is witness between you and me forever. So David hid in the field. And when the new moon feast came, the king sat down to eat. He sat in his customary place by the wall, opposite Jonathan, and Abner sat next to Saul, but David's place was empty. Saul said nothing that day, for he thought something must have happened to David to make him ceremonially unclean. Surely he is unclean. But the next day, the second day of the month, David's place was empty again. Then Saul said to his son Jonathan, Why hasn't the son of Jesse come to the meal, either yesterday or today? Jonathan answered, David earnestly asked me for permission to go to Bethlehem. He said, Let me go because our family is observing a sacrifice in the town, and my brother has ordered me to be there. If I have found favor in your eyes, let me go to see my brothers. That is why he has not come to the king's table. Saul's anger flared up at Jonathan, and he said to him, You son of a perverse and rebellious woman, don't I know that you have sided with the son of Jesse?
We know what he really meant to say. So I guess that's how I used to say son of a bitch back in the days. Let me see. He said, You son of a perverse and rebellious woman. I think that's the first time that the identification of or the definition of son of a bitch. There it is. Son of a perverse and rebellious woman. Right. Let me use that one. You son. No, I don't talk to people like that, but if I did, I would use that. You son of a perverse, rebellious woman. I guess that's the nice way of saying son of a bitch. Here we go.
To your own shame, and to the shame of the mother who bore you. As long as the son of Jesse lives on this earth, neither you nor your kingdom will be established. Now send someone to bring him to me, for he must die. Why should he be put to death? What has he done? Jonathan asked his father. But Saul hurled his spear at him to kill him. Then Jonathan knew that his father intended to kill David. Jonathan got up from the table in fierce anger. On that second day of the feast he did not eat, because he was grieved at his father's shameful treatment of David. In the morning, Jonathan went out to the field for his meeting with David. He had a small boy with him, and he said to the boy, Run and find the arrows I shoot. As the boy ran, he shot an arrow beyond him. When the boy came to the place where Jonathan's arrow had fallen, Jonathan called out after him, "Isn't the arrow beyond you?" Then he shouted, "Hurry, go quickly, don't stop." The boy picked up the arrow and returned to his master. The boy knew nothing about all this, only Jonathan and David knew. Then Jonathan gave his weapons to the boy and said, "Go, carry them back to town." After the boy had gone, David got up from the south side of the stone and bowed down before Jonathan 3 times with his face to the ground. Then they kissed each other and wept together. But David wept the most. Jonathan said to David, "Go in peace, for we have sworn friendship with each other in the name of the Lord, saying, 'The Lord is witness between you and me, and between your descendants and my descendants forever.'" Then David left, and Jonathan went back to the town.
All right, that's a wrap. Wake up, wake up. There it is. A story. Hope you enjoyed it. Happy Transcendent Tuesday. Micro changes, micro awareness is great on a daily basis. Love your soul, natural roll. You already know. Wake up, wake up. See you tomorrow if, you know, universe so allows, so that we can read and maybe talk a little bit. Love your soul, natural roll. You already know. Wake up, wake